Good evening and welcome to the show, Earth to the Other Side. My name's John Glasspool, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Vess this evening, who had her NDE back in 2021. Vess, I welcome you to the show. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So I'd love to give you the floor so you can tell us all about your experience.
And my pleasure. It started off innocently. I was scheduled to have open heart surgery done. I had my valve and I had a bypass done. My kid said the surgery went very well, but afterwards everything started falling apart. My organs started shutting down. My lungs were collapsing. I went sepsis. I had pneumonia. I was on dialysis and I was on a ventilator and trachea. Um, they put me into an induced coma so they could try to work on me without me, you know, having to deal with all of the other stuff. I was in the coma for 3 months. While in the coma, God spoke to me and he asked me if I was sure that was what I wanted. So I assume I must have been thinking I wanted to go. But I paused and I said, if it's my time, I get it. But if not, please take this. And I don't know the time difference from when that happened and when I woke up. But when I did wake up, my daughter explained, because I thought I still had to have the surgery. I don't remember anything prior to the surgery, nothing. And my daughter, I told her, I said, now I still have to have the surgery. She said, no, Mom, you already had it. I said, oh, okay. Somehow I lost my voice. Of course, I couldn't walk because being in a coma for 3 months, your muscles aren't working. So I was unable to walk or talk. When I got home, I realized everything had changed. Everything that I was familiar with had completely changed. I look at the world now in different eyes. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I don't see, like, if I look outside my window, I don't just see trees and grass and birds and flowers. It's like I'm walking in like a little cave like thing. Um I really don't know how to put it into words. But one of the other things that I noticed is my love for Christ just exploded. My main purpose at that point was to make sure that I got God's word out. This is what happened. For years, I felt like I was supposed to be doing something and I could never figure it out. After my coma, it came to me that I need to get a message out to people. This world is not what people think it is. Not at all. It's there is definitely a spirit world. And I've talked to other NDEs and they've also said the same thing. Also, when you have an NDE, it doesn't leave you. In your mind, it's always there. You know this happened. And how blessed, how fortunate you are. This is a miracle. Anyone that has had an NDE, it is a total miracle. My doctors had given up completely on me. My family, they were preparing for me to go. But it's obvious God wasn't ready for me. I have thought quite often if I had responded differently when God asked me if that was what I wanted. If I had said yes, I just feel that I wouldn't be here. I would not be here. I would have already gone to heaven. Um, it's not that I wouldn't want to go to heaven now, but I have other things I have to do, and I have children and get grandchildren that I still want to be a part of. However, I do realize when my time comes, I'll be ready. And it's not a scary thing. That's the other thing. Um, Having a near death experience, you would think it would be frightening. I've heard some people say theirs was. Mine wasn't. It was very calm and very peaceful. It was easy to talk to God. And I said so many times to other people, I'm really thankful that I experienced that NDE. It sounds crazy, but I do, because it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes to so many different things. Um, I don't take any day for granted. When I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is pray and thank God for waking me, because I could not be here. And I'm very thankful. I have so many friends um that were praying for me. It was, when my kids told me about it, there were like hundreds and hundreds of people praying for me that I made it. And I think that had a lot to do with my still being here. And I'm very happy about it. I've got a lot that I do. Um, I didn't think I would be able to do some of the things that I am able to do. Like I paint and draw, and I couldn't because all of my body was just a mess. My hands still aren't back to normal, or my legs. They still have issues. But I have come so far after that NDE. Um, I sometimes surprise myself at things that I can do. I still have a few issues, like with my lungs, um, and I just deal with it. Anything from at this point in my life, anything that happens that normally would be a negative thing, it doesn't bother me. It does Nothing upsets me anymore. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I mean, all of that was taken away. And I've talked to other people, and they've all said the same thing. They're no longer afraid of dying. At one point, I'm sure all of us felt that it's a scary thing, but it really isn't. It's a beautiful thing. And and I'm not wishing this on you, but if ever you have one, you'll understand it better. It's such a beautiful feeling, such a complete feeling. You feel so complete and so together. And I know it's because of God. I really wish I had been one of the people who got to see heaven, but I wasn't allowed that. Um, and I told God, if ever that happens to me again, I want to see my family that's there. Um, it's a positive thing to me. It's not a negative thing. And like I said, I'm really happy I got to experience that.
Thank you, first of all, for sharing that with us. Much appreciated. Do you think that the reason why God didn't allow you to see heaven might be because that perhaps you would not want to come back, return, and that you would want to stay there, having
I'm
seen?
pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that, because I can't imagine seeing all of that and leaving. I am a very strong feeling person, and that has intensified also. I have abilities that I had some prior to, but I have new abilities that I didn't have before. And a lot of the things that I encounter now, um, it's different. And I know I keep saying that, but everything is so different to me. I
What new abilities did you come back with? Can you discuss them?
Now a lot of NDEs has said that they have been afraid to verbalize what what new experiences and new things that they are able to do. For years, I knew I could know things before things happened. That has definitely intensified. And I recall one time I was home with my children and I jumped up. I said, "Your dad just got hurt." And a few minutes later, I got a call from the hospital. He had gotten hurt. And I've had many instances like that. But now I walk around and there's just so many things I know. Just a lot of things that I know now that I didn't know before. And I have definitely had encounters with spirits. Um,
What kind of
I don't
encounters did
know
you
how to.
have?
I'm sorry.
What sort of spirit encounters did you have?
I encountered some evil spirits, and this was before my NDE. But after my NDE, a lot of the spirits that I had seen um haven't they don't scare me. First of all, I'm not afraid of them. The evil ones that I saw, because I'm a religious person, I at that time I slept with my Bible, and I just held my Bible up because they were coming towards me. And then I honestly saw them split, and I could see them moving against the wall. Now I've had the experience of them coming into my living room and moving things and doing little things to items in my house. And I will sit there. And what I do when I see that or that happens, I just say, "I am a child of God and you have no power over me." And they leave. I have not been bothered with them for a while now since I've been home. So
Yeah. And you say you saw them up against the wall. So what exactly did they look like? Can you describe it?
they were dark. The evil ones were dark.
Dark. So were
See,
they more or less shadows or
they look like shadows, but the shadows were moving. Um, and I could feel. That's the other thing. I can now feel when there's something in my house. I can tell if it's evil or if it's friendly. I can feel that in my spirit. Um, but yeah, I could see them against my wall, and then they just disappeared. Yeah.
interesting? And how do you know for sure? Because I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a second here. Although, of course, I'm completely in sync with your story. I believe everything that you're telling me. Just how did you know personally when this occurred that that voice was the voice of God? Like, what made you say, "Oh, okay, well, this is, this is definitely God."
I've heard his voice before. That was not the first time. I've heard God's voice before. I know his voice. Um, and I know when it's him telling me to do something. Like with this came out of the blue for me, this interview. Um, but I had been praying. I said, "Lord, I just want to get this message out to people. This is real. This is very real. NDEs are very real. And I didn't realize there were so many people in the world who has experience. I said, once I got home, I started reading up on this. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have experienced an NDE. So with that, I listen to what people say. I tell them, my experience and how to handle certain things. Um, you honestly receive a different kind of power, if that makes sense. After you've had it, you have a special power, and it's up to you to validate it and use it. A lot of people who have gone through it are afraid. They're so afraid of the things that they're seeing and viewing and experiencing. I'm not afraid of anything. Anything that approaches me or I come in contact with doesn't frighten me. There's no reason. A spirit is not supposed to come unless it is in human form, like Jesus. Jesus came in human form. I should not be able to see a spirit because then they're out of line. There is a protocol, and they're out of line when they do that. And like I said, that those dark ones, I saw them, and you could tell they weren't real. I mean, they were spirits.
So, some viewers that may be watching this might think, okay, well, she was in a coma, so, you know, how does she know for sure
I
that
know what you're
she,
gonna
you know what
say.
I mean, died and stuff like that?
Mhm.
And the voice that you've heard before, how do they know, how does she know whether or not this voice might have been dreamt, right? I mean, these are just some of the things that people might
Mhm.
think. So how would you address that?
Because you can feel it. While in the coma, of course, I couldn't, but afterwards, I could feel that. I knew God had spoken to me. Um, to this day, my doctors are in total shock that I'm still here because, according to them, I should have been gone. They gave my children a few days for me to live, but God came to me and gave me the opportunity of turning that around. And I'm so thankful for that. A lot of people have beliefs. I've had people ask me so many questions about it. And I love answering their questions because a lot of people don't understand. They just don't understand what it all encompasses. There's a lot. There is a whole lot. And like I said, some people are afraid to even voice it. I talked to one woman, nobody knew what she had encountered while she was in her coma. You know, I'm an open person, and I don't have a problem telling anybody anything that they may ask me. And I enjoy being able to help them understand. It's not uncommon for me to do kind things because that's my nature. I love doing things for people. And I thank God for giving me that spirit. But others aren't like me. And I wish I could give them my head, give them my brain, and just for a minute, see exactly what I see and feel. I mean, God is real. It's
What
real.
in your opinion would be probably like the most out there, weirdest question anybody's ever asked you about your experience that you've talked to?
I don't think I've had any weird ones, any real out there ones. I've had people who have been totally against um, what people are saying that have experienced an NDE. Some people think that all NDEs are evil. People encounter evil during it. I know too many people that have encountered what I have. It's peaceful and calm and beautiful. But I don't think I've had any really strange questions.
When you had your experience, was there sort of like a timeline beginning and end to it? Because you were in a coma, so I'm just curious, like how, in terms of time structure, this affect.
See, I don't know. That's what I was saying. I don't know from the time that God spoke to me and when I woke up. I don't know
I do.
because I have no way of knowing that. I didn't even know I was in a coma.
I often hear from people that it's their own voice. How did this voice come to you?
Well, this was a male voice. It was a male voice. It wasn't. You would think when you hear the voice of God as thundering, it wasn't. It was normal, but it was very definitely a male.
Prior to your experience, how much exposure to like near death experiences did you have? Did you even hear
Mm.
of it before? No.
Uh-uh. I had never heard of it.
You never had any out of body experience though, correct?
No,
Okay.
I
State,
will
then the
say
voice came.
this. While in the coma, I had so many hallucinations. It was crazy.
Oh,
I had said, I don't understand how people can do drugs because that was different. Oh my goodness, I had one where I was at my job, but it was a different building than where I used to work. And this man came in. Now this is kind of weird to me. This man came in and he had a saw and the saw was on. And he came towards me and he said he was going to kill me. And I could hear the saw buzzing. And he grabbed me by my neck and pushed me against a wall and said, I could crack your head open just by pushing you against the wall. But somebody ended up shooting him. This was honestly, I had this hallucination, and I remember I was in the hospital, but the hospital was like an office, and I was trying to get the doctor to let me go home, and he said, "Your papers are in the drawer. Just take it and go." Then when I got home from the hospital, I realized the guy with the saw, I actually heard the saw cutting my chest. Somehow I heard it and incorporated it into that hallucination. And I'll tell you another thing that happened while I was in my coma. My son said something, and while in the coma, I heard it. So when I woke up, I asked him if he said whatever it was. He said, "Yes, I did." I said, "I heard you while I was in the coma." I heard him clearly.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I always wondered about that because I mean, a lot of people um, do say that they hear things that
yeah.
they heard certain individuals speaking and saying things to them, and it makes you wonder, like
I
how conscious are we? I mean, how
know.
are we aware? How much of everything are we?
And I wish I could get back into my head and see if I heard anything else. But that's the only thing I remember.
Right. So I'm also curious because I mean, you say you're a religious person and
Hmm.
that you did hear God's voice before all of
Hmm.
this, and then again during your coma. So, what made the time that you heard it in your NDE during your when you were in a coma so much, more profound, so to speak, than prior times, before this all
Mhm.
happened.
I can honestly say I remember everything that happened at that time. I remember thinking I have to pause for a minute because I have to think about what I'm going to say. And I remember pausing. I remember pausing and then I spoke to him. And once I did that and I gave him my answer, that was it. Nothing else.
And was anything else said, like between you two, other than, is this what you want? And was there any other conversation?
That was it. I
What's your
really did.
opinion or your thoughts on guardian angels and spirit guides?
I'd seen my guardian angels twice. Um, in fact, the first time I saw I had a car accident and my car went down the embankment. I was on the freeway and it went down and then turned like it was going to go back up. And there was someone standing there. My car, I drove it right straight up. There were no cars or anybody around, nothing. And I pulled the car to the side and parked. But and the second time, this is when I first got sick. I was in the hospital, didn't think I was going to make it, and I was afraid I was going to die, and I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want to die. And something told me to look towards the window, and there's a chair there by the window, and I looked, and there was a figure sitting in the chair. And I looked at it, and then I turned away, and then I looked again, and it was gone. But my my whole room filled with peace and calmness. And this voice told me, you will have a testimony. That was, oh my goodness, 2013 when this NDE happened. And I, was back home and I thought about it. I said, this is the testimony he was talking about. It actually happened because if I'm dead, I don't have a testimony, you know? And so that was it.
In terms of the afterlife, has that like your thoughts about it? Has that changed at all since your experience, or you always felt that there was one and just
Oh, I've always known there is an afterlife.
Okay.
Um, what it did is intensify my want to be there, to leave this body and go to heaven. The thought of no more, I live in pain every single day. This all started after my NDE. Um, but to think of living without any of that forever, no more sadness, no crying, nothing. I just want to get to heaven. I mean, that's my main goal.
Yeah.
And I'm just thankful I got to experience it. And so I know down in my heart that there is an afterlife. And if you talk to, and I know you've talked to a lot of people, and they will tell you, in fact, Kat is one who was an atheist.
Cat Dunkel?
Yes. And then after her NDE, her whole everything changed.
Mm. Yeah.
Everything about it, which is amazing to me.
Mhm.
That someone who completely did not believe in God now has turned her whole life around where she's serving him and she knows it's real. She knows he's real. And I think most NDEs feel that way after, especially if it's a pleasant experience. Like I said, some have said they've had horrible experiences and ended up in hell. But if it's a pleasant one, you're going to remember that. And a lot of people think because it's in the past that it just completely leaves your psyche. It doesn't. It is with you every single day. With me, I just want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to love everybody. I have so much love in my heart now. I mean, I did before, but I mean, it's like overwhelming now. Um, and that's a blessing, you know. If there was more of that in this world, it would be a wonderful place, but it isn't.
I do see the love in your heart, and it's quite
Mhm.
apparent. And I'm really happy that I met you, and I'm really happy that you agreed to do
Oh,
this
yeah.
interview. You did a fantastic job, despite saying you were so nervous. It doesn't show. You seem so comfortable in front of the camera. And
Thank
so I
you.
thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your experience. It's been really, really nice.
So, you, John,
Blessings to you.
same to you.
Thank you so much.